So like, the other beautiful thing about the circle is that it's zero, right? And so, that idea of Shunia, that becomes nothing, and by becoming nothing, you become everything, is encapsulated in that. So there is a sort of finite definition of how you. So that's vibrating out into infinite space. Okay, so are there really just 22 vibrations in the entire universe? Frequency vibrations? Obviously not. Mm-hmm. But the beautiful thing about each tarot card is that they create combinations with other frequencies. And they have different frequencies within them. For example, like the star, you could focus on the woman's body, or you could focus on her breast, or you could focus on her yoni, or you could focus on the ground that she's standing in, or you could focus on the pool of water, or you could focus on the picture, and you can start to focus on all the combinations between that, combinations between two of those things, three of those things. You then start to add all of your creative, poetic associations or correspondences, or what we like to talk about in tarot as correspondences, things that are somehow create some synchronicity with each other. And then you have, like, within that one of the 22, you have an infinite number of frequencies that are created. The Tantric Tarot is helping us open up the fact that, okay, a woman might be a woman, and just you relate to whatever your definition of a woman is, but she can also be the star. So how is a woman a star? And then that suggests a cosmic dimension to what a woman is. And I'm just talking about like the symbology of the card, the star.
Not like the Crowley, every man and every woman is a star kind of.
Oh, but that's another, another, big part. Okay, so how is a woman like a star? A woman contains every man and woman that ever was a star, that ever, and just the way a human being is connected to every human being that ever lived in some kind of fundamental way of sharing that human beingness of what we are. So is a woman connected to every star, and by then correspondence, every man and woman that ever existed. So, and that's like just, it's just like telescoping and microscoping and, infinite degrees. And the tarot is just like, it's like a little like, okay, like this is why I like this diagram, because it's sort of like if you looked at it like a telescope, right? So yes, you can set a telescope to look out to the cosmos from 360 degrees, and within each degree you could have as many degrees as you want. So the cosmos is so big that as you sort of point it to different points around the circle of your like stand that you have your telescope on. You know, just a minute shift shows you like this vastly different space in outer space. And just in the same way, you know, you have these 22 things. So that's like, you know, okay, like where am I setting up, you know, like what she's doing, where am I setting up my camera? What like general direction am I looking out to? But within that general direction, there's like, you know, 1/22 of infinity is a huge amount of space that you're covering. So, you know, that's sort of what these frequencies are. So, like, you know, the other beautiful thing about the circle is that it's zero, right? And so, you know, that idea of Shunia that becomes nothing, and by becoming nothing, you become everything, is encapsulated in that. So there is a sort of finite definition of how you like sort of get to what the circle is, which is that number 22, or at least that's a fundamental sort of background on which that number is created from, is the 22. And you know, so then like, you know, like, okay, like 22 out of 7. So like, you know, then like, you know, you can look at like all of the tarot cards or all the tarot frequencies of love as like, okay, now how do they vibrate from the level of the first chakra? How do they vibrate from the level of the second chakra? Then you go, you know, I was telling you like, well, there's really like, you know, I can't remember how many I said, but like, you know, 150,000 spiritual bodies, not 10.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you start getting that, okay, but you can vibrate each of those through 3 gunas. So that's like another multiple of 3 on top of that. You can multiply it by 22 times 22, which is, you know, that each one in relationship to each of the other paths. You can relate it to 22 times 22 times 22 by creating the relationship of, you know, 0.17 to 2 other points. You can, you know, do a 22, you know, so by the time you're like creating all of these mathematical things that are actually within the structure of what we know about, you know, the way different aspects of the cosmos are set up, you know, for all intent and purposes, you've created an infinite number of relationships, and so an infinite number of frequencies that are derived from those original 22. But those 22 sort of create a perfect ratio of the frequencies so that you can actually create elegant communication.
Take the macrocosmic infinity vibrations and really distill them into the bindu of the 22.
Yeah.
Like to make it so
because you can't handle, you know, like, you know, how could you talk about like the relationship between the infinite radio station, the infinite number of radio stations? But you can very nicely talk about, it's complicated, and it, you know, as you know, the tarot is, it sort of blows your mind and expands your mind and makes you go out of your sort of simple categories of the way you look at the world. But you can at least talk about it. You can talk about it and come back to it and keep reinforcing it and keep sort of deepening your imaginative concept of what's going on in the totality. And the most important thing is you can keep relating whatever detail you're talking about to this total system that includes the totality.
To continue with that metaphor, is that also part of why the symbols in the Tantric Tarot game appear in different frequencies? Like, for example, like the symbol of cups, or the symbol
right.
of wands,
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think the tarot is designed that way to show you that it's like what we were talking about the other day, like the thing that Crowley said about every number is infinite. And so, you know, wherever you land, you're creating, it's like a different combination, you know, it's like one cosmic stuff. It's all made of the same stuff. It's all made of the ether that symbolized by the Fool. That's why the Fool is sort of like the cosmic, you know, what's the word? You know, it's sort of like the Philosopher's Stone that, like, you know, transfers everything into gold, you know, that transmutes everything into gold. You know, it's all one cosmic stuff. No matter where you are in the presence of infinity. But from the point of view of Maya, from the point of view of perception, infinity puts on many different clothes. And so you want to see that no matter what clothes you're wearing, you're still dressed by the same infinity. It still leads to the same infinity. There's like, this sort of sense of, what's beautiful, why it's a game is because, like, from the point of view of infinity, from the point of view of we're all the same and we all conclude everything, nothing's really going on, right? It's a steady state,
Yeah.
we're always everything all the time. There's a very difficult way to relate to that because it's vast beyond our comprehension, it's vast beyond our ability to perceive. But when you look at the clothes, it's like fun, right? It's fun to dress up. I just have this complete concept of it. It's just like, God, like, wanted to have a dress up party because, just being clear water was kind of boring. And so, put some color in it, put some shape to it, put some sounds to it, put all the different things that the senses perceive, all the things that we can perceive perceptually, physically or more subtly, are these just kind of like things that the creator created to create relationships, like, well, it's one thing to have a relationship with every human being that was ever created, but it's another thing to focus on what it's like to have a relationship with Hardev, like, and really focus on that and really get to know Hardev. And Hardev is not everything from a perceptual point of view. She's just the things that Hardev are. Although she has infinite potential, but in terms of your experiencing, she's not a zebra when usually when when you look at her, and if you want to have a relationship with a zebra, then find either a human being who really likes zebras, who has zebras around him a lot, or find a zebra, to have the relationship with. And so it's like these are just ways so that we can have this sort of erotic, intimate relationship with the different aspects of God. And what happens is when you start to doing that, you go like, oh, I thought it was Hardev, but as I go into the experience of Hardev, I find out that there's much more than meets the eye to Hardev. And if I really go deeply into that, that's going to lead me into the infinity of the goddess. And if I really go into the infinity of the goddess, then I'm going to go into the infinity of the entire cosmos. And if I go into the infinity of the entire cosmos, I'm going to go into the infinity of infinity. And so, it's like that particular, it's like Blake liked to say, like, art is all about the minute particulars of life. It's like not about creating an experience of infinity. It's about creating the experience of infinity in a grain of sand. That you start to draw that grain of sand, to the naked eye, it looks like almost an unseeable point, but as you microscopically go into it and see that it's made of, different vibrations and chemicals, and that, if you actually microscopically looked at it, you'd actually see a planet in a grain of sand with all the different things that were on the surface of that, what looks to us like just a speck, but if you microscopically go into it, you look at it with an electronic microscope, it's bigger than a planet. So,
similar to like the Charles and Ray Eames concept of everything being sort of like, the thing that comes to mind is a film that they made back in, I believe, the 1940s or so, in which there was a traveling camera that was going up and down through scales, going from the sort of cosmic level down to the microcosmic level.
Right. And then, and what you end up with is, the face of a dog or something like that, or, like, but yeah, within that, there's all these different dimensions that are accessed. And that's another great thing about frequency, of working with frequency, is that frequency transcends dimension. So, you can listen to your radio thing as, something that fills the space of this room, but you can also broadcast it way out to its space where it's filling, a frequency of a much larger event. And within that much larger event, you can telescope back down to what's happening in that room. So in that sense, this room right here is, that's what quantum physics is all about, like two particles vibrating on complete opposite sides of the cosmos. Whatever is done to this particle in this context affects the particle on the other side of the cosmos.